Greetings, I'm Zachary Hepner. I'm pleased to share this Dvar Torah with you for Parashat Vaera. Exodus 9:14 is Ki b'pam hazot ani sholech et kol magefotai el libcha uvavadecha uve'amecha bavor teda ki ein kamani b'chol haaretz. For this time I will send all my plagues upon you and your servants and your people, in order that you may know that there is none like me in all the world. God commands Moses to forewarn Pharaoh of the next imminent plague. Chronologically, the next plague is hail. But the problem is that the text calls this plague kol magefotai, all my plagues, indicating that this plague is as harsh as the cumulative effect of all the plagues. According to the first reading of Rashi, where he says Bechorot, the text is referring to the smiting of the firstborn, that's the worst plague. Perhaps he's being axiomatic. That Makat Bechorot has to be the worst of the plagues. Why is it mentioned here? Why is this verse mentioned here out of order? That's an unanswered question. According to the version of Rashi that it's not Bechorot, but it's Betzorot, that the plague brings famine, and this is kol magefotai, all my plagues is the famine that's brought upon from the hail. The commentators comment on and they explain why famine is as bad as all the plagues. The version of Rashi of Betzorot attempts to answer why hail is such a terrible plague. I'd like to suggest a different answer that also explains why the plague is elibecha, a plague that is directed towards the Egyptians or Pharaoh's heart. In the recitation of Kriyat Shema in Deuteronomy, we recite, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher nechi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. You should love Hashem your God with all your hearts, all your soul, and all your me'odecha. Rashi quotes Talmud Brachot 61b. Im ne'emar nafshecha lama ne'bar b'chol me'odecha, v'im ne'emar b'chol me'odecha la ne'emar b'chol nafshecha. Ela yesh lecha adam shegufo chaviv alav memamono, לכן אמר בכל נפשך. ואם יש לך אדם שממונו חביב עליו מגופו, לכך נאמר בכל מאודיך. The Talmud says, rather, this means to say that if one's body is dearer to him than his property, therefore it says b'chol nafshecha. One must give, and if one's money is dearer to him than his body, then the Torah says you must love God b'chol me'odecha, with all your might, referring to everything that he has. The Torah recognizes that not everyone cherishes their own life above everything. Some people cherish their body, and others they cherish their values above everything. So therefore, the Torah states, "Uvechol me'odecha," you must love God more than you love your money. The next verse requires you to store your love. You store your love in your heart. Al levavecha. Back to the Egyptians, the plague of hail was in fact worse to some of the Egyptians than the ultimate smiting of the firstborn. Hail destroyed the agriculture and the livestock. Egyptian portfolios that were otherwise considered secure investments were wiped out. Pennies of destruction from heaven. For Egyptians who loved their money more than they loved their life, this plague was indeed the worst plague. What an ironic inclusion, because the tenure of the Israelites in Egypt all started with food insecurity, and Joseph promising the Egyptians food security in exchange for their generational assets. Now the Egyptians have no food, no security, no assets. In a close reading of the verse, Moshe tells Pharaoh, the plague will be sent to your heart, your servants and your nation. The mention of the plague of money and food insecurity, where is it felt? El libcha, being sent to your heart, further reflects that we are charging in loving God above our money, al levavecha. The same place where we love God is the same place that God smites Pharaoh to his empty yet heavy heart. Lastly, the first verse of Shema ends with God's exclusive singularity. Hashem Echad. God is the one and only. Exodus 9:14 gives the reason for hail. Ba'avur teda ki ein kamoni b'chol haaretz. In order that you know and understand that there is none like me in the land. To summarize, the plague of hail is so much more severe than other plagues, and it echoes the Shema with Echad, Me'odecha, and Al Levavecha. May we place our love of our God in our special place, Al Levavecha, on and in our hearts. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.